Okay, hello, welcome, and thank you for coming to this edition of tim.js. I'm going to talk about web applications in the age of agents. It's something that's probably on most of our minds. I will have a few slides, at least two of them with JavaScript on them, I hope. So it's not exactly like Anka said that it's not JavaScript related, and I will be talking about some things related to JavaScript. I'm Adrian. You probably usually see me here, like Anka said, trying to record and helping out organizing this. At my day job, I work at WeVideo. I've been in product companies for, I think, 15 years or more than 15 years or something like that. So that's where most of my experience comes from. My main focus is front-end and developer experience and front-end architecture and things like that. And like I said, today I'm here to talk about AI features in web applications. Most of us work on web applications, so let's see what we can do about that. And up to now, we've added some features to the app that we work, or we've seen some features in the apps that we use, like Google Slides or Google Docs and so on. But this is not exactly what's coming next. Some of you might have seen more advanced apps, especially in recent presentations like Google I/O. We're going to have a look at what that means. But before, a short recap. I think I gave another talk about LLMs and agents at some point. We're going to look in 2-3 slides and remember what they are. So you keep hearing people mentioning agent. What's an agent? Well, we know we have an LLM model that is basically just predicting text. It's generating the next token. And an agent is an LLM model that can also ask for tools, for actions. Someone has to do something for that agent. An agent itself cannot do anything. But whenever it wants to, for example, search the web, it emits a tool use. It tells the host or whoever will use that tool for him to do something. The action is performed. The result is sent back to the agent. This loop is something that we call agent, and some other things, but this is what's relevant for us today. How this works, I like this tool a lot, so we'll see a lot of drawings, this type of style. So we ask something, the models try to figure out what does it need to do. It requests a tool call. That tool goes to the host. The host can be, I don't know, Claude Code or Claude Desktop or ChatGPT or Codex or any kind of tool that you use. It executes the tool for the model. It sends back the result. Then the model tries to figure out if it needs to call other tools or to present the result to the user. How this usually works is something like this. I'm entering a prompt like, what's the weather in Timișoara? This gets to the model. It doesn't know what the weather is, of course, so it emits a tool use. It wants to call a tool called getWeather with the input Timișoara as city. The host will call this getWeather from whatever provider we have, and it will return something. Okay, the temperature is 18. Seems like I was way too optimistic when I wrote this. So the temperature is 18 and it's partially cloudy. This gets back to the model and the model responds to us, okay, it's 18 degrees outside and partially cloudy. And it's able to do this because someone executes these actions for it. So it cannot do anything outside of generating text, but in this way, it's way more powerful. Now, about current state of applications. Like I was saying, we keep adding features to them, but the features that we've seen so far in most applications are like summarize this page, or it takes meeting notes with less or more success depending on the tool, or you can have magic eraser like in Photoshop or Paint or what you are using. And these work and they are also useful, but they are isolated, so they are not linked to each other. It's like pockets of AI functionality inside my app. They are not composable, so I cannot tell it to take meetings from my note and also transform those meeting notes in some way. And they have no shared context. They don't know about each other and they cannot share information with each other. The whole context dies whenever one of these tools is used, so the next one has no idea about anything else. So that there is space to improve here. Now about current state of browsers, of course, again related to AI. We have Cloud for Chrome, Gemini in Chrome, Atlas, Comet, Dia, and a suite of browsers that are like AI specific and allow us to use agents in our daily work. How many of you use any of these tools, like at least weekly or not daily? Okay, some of you. For those that don't, this is from their like marketing material. This, I think, it's Cloud for Chrome. Basically, you get a sidebar with an agent that tries to do things for you in the browser or in the app that's opened. And this is Gemini. Whoa, too wide, sorry, back. It's the same thing. You have a sidebar, and you talk with the agent there, and it tries to perform actions for you. And do these tools work? Well, yes, usually, most of the time they work, but they have some very relevant limitations. They are kind of slow. I don't know, not many of you use them, but I've tested them out even in our application or different applications. At some point, they are able to do what I want, but not in a really fast way. So it takes a while to be able to do that. And they are brittle. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, and they are also kind of expensive. If I'm using my own model, or I pay for one of these models, they are a bit expensive to use. Now, why they are expensive, or why they are slow, and why they have these limitations? Well, they have no idea what my app is doing and how it can do something. So they have to look at the DOM to figure out, okay, I want to search for something. Okay, let's look into the DOM or in the page and try to find the search input. Maybe that's what this user wants. And some of them take actual screenshots of the page and then try to understand the screenshot. Like, okay, again, I'll have to look for a search input in order to do what the user have. And they have no real instructions and no real tools to perform what you ask them to do. They're just like guessing. They're trying to figure out what you want to do and what's exposed in the application based like that. Now, like I said, they work, yeah, most of the time with these issues that they have, but I know, would you trust them to do like, I know, book like a plane flight for you, like 500 euros, 1,000 euros, or book hotels for you? I'm not quite there yet. I wouldn't use one of these tools to do these kind of things for me. Not even like their example, like book a meeting. It might mess up the time zone or something like that, and I will miss a relevant meeting. So they did something in this direction, but they don't work that great. And the main reason for that is that our applications are not built for agents. We had no idea when we started building our applications, or even like 2 years ago, that we have to build applications for agents also, not only for humans. And the direction in which I'm going with today's talk is that we want to build these applications for agents by exposing a set of tools, not just the user interface, right? So we have the user interface with buttons, inputs, forms, and whatever else we're building. That's for humans. We also have to expose a set of tools which can be used by agents to work with the app and with ourselves. Now I'm trying to do a demo, which will be very recorded. If you want live demos, Andrei will present. I'm just recording myself because I'm not that good. Let's see. Okay. There are a few things to explain before I'll just hit play here. On the left, you see Cloud Desktop, one of the tools that I'm using. On the right, you see the WeVideo application. In this example, it was running locally, but I have this implemented even in a deployed version. WeVideo, it's a platform. We have several things. What you're going to see here is basically a dashboard. You have dashboard in most of the apps, and then you will see a video editor. You have a library of content, you have a timeline, and you have a player where you see results. And what I tried to do here was like I gave it this like sample prompt, which we try to test this kind of tools with. Just create a new project and then search for images of cats. Add 9 of them, each image on a new layer, and arrange them in a 3x3 grid so we see it can transform things. Let's see if it plays. No, it doesn't play. Can I play it? Okay, so at first it figured out that I'm like not that bright because I said a grid of 9 by 9, but it understood that I said 9 images, so he's an idiot, just use a grid of 3 by 3. He created a new project, he searched for images of cats, and you can actually see the results as a user. It's happening exactly as I would do it. It opened the editor, it entered the cat string, see the images, it's currently adding them on new tracks or layers, each of them, and after it's done, it will start to arrange them. You can also already see that happening in the background, and it basically tells me what's doing in live results on the left in Cloud Desktop. It said it found some clips. It took a while to find the tools, because when I recorded the demo, I didn't know exactly how to help him find the tools that I want the agent to find. And basically, it's already did what I want. So it added images, and it created that nice 3 by 3 grid. I don't know what it's useful for, but it's just a prompt that we use to test agents with. Now, again, this is like Cloud Desktop with a web application in a browser, and it's doing actions for me with that prompt. Now, is this better than what I've showed you that the existing tools can do? Well, I think that yes, and this is something that I would actually trust to do things that are more complex for me. And why I would trust it? Because in this case, it had tools and context. So it didn't try to guess what's happening. When I told it to create a project, it actually had a tool called create project. I didn't know that, okay, if the user wants to create a project, I can call this tool. And then to search for stock content, it has a tool to do that. So it knows how to search for me, and so on. And it also has the context. It has all the information that I have. It knows where I am in the app, information about my user, whatever I've added to the timeline so far. And some of these tools, of these things are also possible for the other tools, but not in an easy way and not in a more like deterministic way of doing this. So in this case, it's not guessing anything. It has all that local data and context and all the useful information. And you keep hearing me calling tools, but we are developers. And what the heck are these tools? Well, very simply, they're just functions. You can think of a tool as a function. Why? It has a name, has a description, and it has a schema, which actually tells you the arguments that function can use. This is a real example on how a tool like this looks. In this case, I have one that searches for stock videos. I don't know why only videos. I have a version where it just searches for everything. But in this case, it searches for videos. So this is the name, search underline stock videos, a description, which you actually tell the agent what this tool can do. And it has an input schema. This is a JSON schema, might be a bit like weird for you to see. But what's actually happening is that I'm telling it, I have a query with a description that what the query does and that it's a type string, and that whenever it calls this tool, it can use that as input argument. And this is it. And of course, the code that actually executes, like the body of the function. But that's it. This is a tool. And the best part with our applications, with our web apps, is that we already have these tools. We don't need to re-implement everything. The user does this already. When you say create a new project, the user is able to do that. So you already have the code in your app that does this. When I say search for stock content, the user is able to do that. So you have the code that does that. You just have to expose it like this. So all these examples are like functionality that exists in our apps, and you can expose them as tools. So the effort to do this is not really that big. Most of them are just there. Okay, depends a bit on your application architecture. But if the user is able to do something, you're able to expose it as a tool without much effort. And now that we know that maybe we want these tools and that they are just functions, I'll go over a few like best practices for creating them. I think best practice is a bit much. It's like what worked for me. And then this is like everything is emerging and new. So whatever worked for me might not be valid in, I know, 1 month. If I've waited 1 more month to give this talk, maybe half of it would be different. But the idea beside it, it's the same. Like if you have these tools, you can change how you expose them, how you register them, and so on. Actually, I think that today at 2 or 3, I got an email from Google that's like making one of my slides wrong. They just changed the APIs. I'll tell you more when I get there. But let's see what's relevant about these tools and how to create them. So the first thing that I found out was that I want to expose user actions, not individual bits and pieces, right? So in the example that I've showed you, I had a tool or a function where I was searching for content. And that's all that it does in one single tool. It knows to go to that library, to select the correct tab, to enter the search text, and so on. I could have exposed like 10 tools, focus the library, focus one tab, focus the search box, enter the text, and so on. But when you are like talking with an agent, you tell it like in human language what to do. And it's way easier for an agent to map what you want with user actions. If I tell it search for content and I have a search tool, it's like bloody obvious what it has to do, right? It has to use that search tool. But if I have 20 tools that need to be called to perform a simple search, it's not that straightforward for the agent. And in this kind of implementation with tools, you don't have like skills and instructions on how to use those tools. So you have to make it easy for the agent to understand what you're doing. So expose whatever actions are meaningful for the user, not just small pieces. The second one is about context-dependent actions. What do I mean by this? You've seen in the short demo that initially I was on the dashboard, and afterwards I was inside an editor. When you are in a dashboard, you want to expose certain tools, like create new project or navigate to the editor, and so on. When I'm in the editor, I want to expose 20 or 30 other tools. It's like there's no point in exposing 100 tools, and depending on the context of the app, you have like, okay, maybe I can call 5 of them or 10 of them. It's way easier for an agent to figure out what it can do if it only sees the available tools like now, in this moment of our conversation. How do you do this? Well, I sort of like did it in a simple way. Whenever I mount a component or a page, I register the tools. When I navigate away, I remove them. And in that way, it only knows about what's relevant in that particular moment. Now, there's one big exception to this rule, which is a getContext function or getContext rule. I didn't have this initially, just a set of actions that it can perform. Once I've added this, the performance of the agent working with my app kind of increased a lot. What do I mean by this getContext? It's a function that tells the agent whatever is relevant from my application. What type of user I am, what's the URL in the application, local state for any kind of components, whatever you think it's helpful or relevant for the agent to know, so it can perform the actions. This should be like always available. Just register it when your app starts. What it returns, it's different. Once I've added this, agents started to figure out that they can call it whenever they need to get more context on what to do and how to do it. They just call getContext and then figure out what other tools they need to call. And how do they figure out some of these things are like by the descriptions. If you remember the example, you had the description for the function itself and descriptions for the schema properties, for the input arguments. It's very important how you write these things. If you just say user ID and then generate a comment user ID, that's not useful for the agent. You're not telling it anything. You have to treat these descriptions like actual prompts, like prompt engineering on how to work with them. Another very important thing is like you don't want to return from these actions or functions until everything is done. Why? Well, the agent works with the user. If I'm returning and the agent says, oh, so I've done this search for you and I've added the images and so on, and in the app you see things still happening, it makes no sense for you as a user, right? It's very weird. So you have to be sure that everything is done, all the UI is updated, you navigate it to whatever page you want, and then you return from these functions. In this way, you work with the agent. And the second thing here is that, remember I said you need to register tool, or you can register tools based on the context. If you return before you navigate, the new tools will not be registered. So the agent will not know that you have something new available. So only return from these functions after everything is done. And since I'm talking about what you return, this matters a lot, and it matters from at least two different points. Once, this is what the agent sees, right? So if I tell it search for content, and then I return from my search function, I just tell it, okay, search completed, it will know that the search is completed. But if I return to the agent a list of like the results, it knows, oh, the search completed, and you have these results. And then what you put in those results matter, again, because in your app, what matters most? I don't know, to know the content ID for those images. But if the agent will tell you something, okay, so I found some images, they have ID 1 and ID 23 and ID 54. Is that relevant for you? Not really. But if you return a list of results that contain, for example, the alt text for those images, it will say, so I found some images. The first is like sunset over the ocean, and the second one is a drone footage of some mountains. Then you have a bit more information about what's happening there. So it matters what you return there, because that's actual context for the agent. And because it's context for the agent, this is the second thing why it matters a lot what you return. If my search will return 1,000 items, do I want to send all that to the agent? Everything that you return here will be added to the context. Context fills up, not great for you. So it works in the same way like an API call. If you have a lot of things, maybe just say that this is the first page. And if you want more, just call the tool again. I'll give you more. Because otherwise, you will just kill the context pretty easily. Another mistake that I did, and I had to fix after, was like, how do I treat errors? Because I'm a developer, I'm used to working with these tools when I develop apps, right? So whenever I had an error, what did I do? Just return the whole error to the agent. And then it was telling me as a user, so you have this null exception, you're calling something or undefined, and this is the call stack. And I was like, wait a bit, I'm the user of the app. Why do I care for this? I don't need to return all the call stack and all the error information. I just need to return, I know, user doesn't have permission to do this. That's it. You have to treat this exactly as you talk to a user. You have to send similar kind of information to the agent, so it shows something meaningful to the user. And the last thing that I figured out, if you remember in my demo, I've said that it took a while for the tool to figure out what tool for the Cloud Desktop app to figure out what tool to use. Why? Well, if I have something like 20 MCP servers installed, and I tell it just search for something, maybe 10 of those servers will have a search function implemented, and it has to figure out which of them to actually use. To help with that, it was like trivial, but it worked for me. I use this kind of namespacing. I just add the thing name before the tool. Before it was search underline content. Afterward, it was like WeVideo underline search content. And if I tell it use WeVideo to create a new project, it knows that from now on, I'll just look for WeVideo in the tool name. I don't know if it will work in like 1 month, but it had pretty good results for me. And that's like, you have to experiment with all of these things. Some of them are like maybe making sense on the long run. Some of them not, and will drop them. Like this kind with namespace probably will not be that used in the future. And in this way, you can create this kind of functions in your code that are based on existing code, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel or anything. You just have to figure out how you write the names and the description or the input schema with what you can send to these tools. And this is like independent of any platform on any way you will use them afterwards. In the next part, we're gonna have a look at some ideas on how to work with them. I will not get into a lot of details. I usually started working on slides for that, and then I figured out that the talk will have like 2 hours, and I don't want to do that. So I just try to give you the general direction on where you can go. And then we can like work together. I've just experimented with a few of them. You can discuss live, we can discuss on Discord or whenever you want if you want to work together on this kind of tools. First thing is WebMCP. Anyone heard about it or seen Google I/O? Okay, quite a few of you. It's here at least from the beginning of the year, I think, but it was recently showcased at Google I/O again. If you use this to register all these functions or tools, your application will be a bit future-proof. It's a proposed web standard. It allows web application to register tools that agents can use. It's in early preview. You can join. I've added a link here for the Google Docs. You have a join there. And it's already in the Chrome that you have. It's just under a feature flag. So if you enable that feature flag, then you will be able to use it. And the other link is a Chrome extension that allows you to see all the registered tools and to call them and write prompts and work with them. Let's see how this looks. This is a request to register a tool. What you can see, it has exactly the same things that I've showed you, similar to other things. It has the name, description, input schema, and the code that actually does what the tool does. And this is the place where you would probably call 1, 2, or 3 functions from your actual code. That's why I say this is not that hard to add. And the part that's new, like Navigator has this model context object on it, which has several functions, among them register tool. Until recently, it only had register tool, because this is like early preview of a standard. And today I got an email from Google that it's no longer on Navigator, it's on document now. That's why I was saying that this is changing, and it's adapting fast, because again, it's a standard that they proposed. Now, something that I've never used so far, it's the declarative way of doing it. We have a form, and they've added a few attributes that will allow browsers to register this kind of tools automatically for you from HTML. So in this case, on the form itself, I have the tool name, I have the description, and then you can add tool param description. In that case, it's a select, and know that will be like an input argument. And this in the background will register a tool for you. It's nice if you want like a contact form and you want to register something. Otherwise, I've used just the previous way of registering tools. And why is this useful? Well, you have your web app, and you have all those tools registered through WebMCP, and then things like Claude for Chrome and Gemini in Chrome and all the AI browsers will connect to your app, and now instead of guessing what to do, they have the list of available tools, and they can call them. So instead of guessing how to book a plane ticket for me, they have a function that says book plane ticket with these arguments. Now, what do I trust more? An agent trying to figure out what HTML I have on the page and doing the booking, or an agent that has a function that it calls to do the booking for me? This is something that I would actually use. And I think that at Google I/O, they announced that they are working for Gemini in Chrome to add support for this. Now, would some of the others add support soon? I don't know. Like each of the big providers is fighting to get more usage on their platform. So maybe they will not do it, but if this gets like approved as a standard, then everyone will use it. But again, once you have these functions, you can use them in different ways. Even if you ignore all the WebMCP thing, there's this thing called MCP-B, which Model Context Protocol Browser. They didn't thought of a better name. This is a set of libraries that exists, and it existed before WebMCP, and they based like the standard definition of what's happening here. They have like, I don't know, 7 packages. They have polyfills, so this works in any browser. They have a React implementation, so you just add it to your React app and so on. So you can also use this to just ship it to your customers. Another thing is Model Context Protocol servers by themselves. How? This is what I was showing you in the demo. I used Cloud Desktop to connect to a web app running in a browser. And how this happened? In my case, I used the local MCP server. There are local servers and remote servers. Local are on your computer. Remote is hosted somewhere. In my case, it was something like this. So we have the application. We have the tools, which can be registered with simple JavaScript or through web MCP. And then you figure out, hey, I can use WebSockets to communicate with some other process on my laptop. So I have a local MCP server that communicates with my app through WebSockets and exposes these functions or these tools to different MCP clients like Cloud Desktop or Cursor or whatever you want to use. The local MCP server, it's like just a relay, a bridge. It just takes all the actions that I have in my web app and it sends them to any MCP client that's relevant. The setup for this is not that complex. Honestly, for example, for Cloud Code, you can create a plugin with this kind of local server. User just double clicks on it and it works. It's enabled and it works. That's all that you have to do. So you can package this and send it to your users without any issues. And if you use like WebMCP and some packages from MCP browser library, you sort of get this like for free. The MCP-B library has this part built in. So I have a local relay server, which will take all your registered tools and will send them to any MCP client. Now, do you want to ship that to a customer? Probably not. It will expose any tools in the browser, not just yours. So you want to build with it a bit or create your own local MCP server. But this is doable and it's not that complex. The out-of-the-box experience is good for a demo, like what I did, not exactly something that you want to ship as it is. It's something that you want to build upon. Now, another fun experiment is about using remote MCP servers, which is actually also possible. It's almost the same thing, but instead of using WebSockets to communicate with my local machine, I use WebSockets to communicate with my server, where it also has a remote MCP server installed, and then it can work with different kind of MCP clients again. This works, but you hit some kind of issues pretty fast. First of them is authentication. You need to figure out how to authenticate the MCP server and the user, and you need to know how to send the WebSocket messages to the correct client and so on. I had a bit of fun with it. It's doable, but yeah, it's a bit more technically complex, but it allows you to do other type of things. For example, you can add your app in the OpenAI marketplace, or you can add a connector. It's in the same marketplace. It's sort of like a bit different and might be needed in some cases. And another thing that you have a problem, and I don't have any way of around it, is latency, right? When you use WebSockets to communicate with something on your laptop, it's very fast. When you use WebSockets to communicate something like a server somewhere remote, you have latency. It will take a while. There's no way around it, because the MCP client might be on my computer, and when I tell it to do something, it will send a request through WebSockets, and it reaches my server, and then sends a request back to my application, and then it goes back to my server, back to the client, and it gives me the prompt back. So it works, but it has this type of latency. And the last way, and probably the most powerful way you can do this, is in-app agents. Most of us have seen chats and hate them because they're not very bright. Usually in most apps, how you can improve those chats or those implementation in our apps is with these tools, right? So we have a chat that sends prompts to a model, and it has all the context about whatever we want to know about our app. But if it doesn't have these tools, it's quite limited. If it has tools, it can act on the app instead of me. How this works, maybe some of you already have this implemented. So I have a text box inside my app. I write a prompt in it, and that prompt gets sent to my backend, which is sort of like a proxy. It takes that prompt and like a system prompt and an API key, and it sends that call to an LLM provider, OpenAI, Anthropic, I don't know, Cloudflare. Everyone has an LLM router these days, so it sends that prompt to a provider. The provider sends the response back to my backend, and then it sends the result back to the client application. Technically, it's kind of the same thing. The only difference is that now I can send the tools definitions with these prompts. So whenever I'm sending my prompt to, I don't know, let's say OpenAI, and ChatGPT will tell me what to do, I also tell it, hey, you have these 10 tools available. How does that work? I send the prompt and the tools. If the LLM provider figures out that it needs to execute a tool, it will send back a tool request. The tool request gets to my application in the browser, and I have to actually execute the tool and then send the result back to my backend, so it forwards it to the LLM provider. Basically, what we're doing here is like we're rebuilding a part of Cloud Code or ChatGPT inside our app, because we execute these tools ourselves, and then we send the result back to the LLM, and it figures out if it needs to do anything else, or it tells me that this is done. And it actually works, and it's pretty nice for users. Again, you've probably seen demos of this recently at Google I/O. Some of their apps have now a chat, and you can tell it in that chat to do like whatever you want with the document, with whatever you're working, and it just does it. And another thing that you can do in this case, which is worth mentioning, is like on the backend, I can also add my collection of server-side tools, which adds complexity. But if, let's say, one of my tools on the client just calls an API, there's no point for all that round-back trip. I can add it to the array of tools on the backend and then send it to the LLM provider. But then you need to differentiate between them. When you execute a tool, now you need to know if you need to execute it on the backend or on the client, so it gets a bit complex. But it's doable. And you have, I don't know, AI SDK for Vercel and like 2-3 other SDKs that can help you with this. All the providers have SDKs for, I don't know, Java and TypeScript and all your preferred languages, C# and so on. So it's not a really big effort. Now, looking at these two types of things, right? So we looked at web MCP and local and remote MCP and this in-app agent. Beside the type of functionality that it provides, right? So for me as a user, as a regular user, to put it like that, the best value would be something like in-app agent. I cannot like bet that Claude for Chrome or Gemini or these other things will use my tools, but I can build my own agent. And as an experience, for me as a user, that would be great. But who pays for what I'm doing, right? If I'm doing it with an external client, like Cloud Desktop or Cloud for Chrome, I don't kind of care. It's my subscription as a user. And if I'm like building it in-app, now it's my problem as a company because I'm paying for all that AI usage. So if you're doing that, you have to figure out how are you gonna like monetize that. Maybe you're gonna have some kind of, I don't know, credit system. If you've been like looking at different tools recently, you've seen that most of them are switching to like credits-based AI usage and not just a subscription. Why? Because one user might use 1 prompt per day, other users might use 1,000 prompts per day, and it's quite expensive. So you need to think about this when you're working with them. And again, the type of user matters most, even the type of app, because if I'm using Cloud Desktop, maybe I'm more like a power user. And I have my own subscription and I work with 10 different apps in the same time, and I want that kind of thing. But still, in-app agents are the most like powerful for regular users. Something that some of you might ask is what are you going to do with security? What if the agent can just delete everything? Or what if it can perform refunds? Do you want to allow an agent that can perform refunds for the customers? What if they find a glitch to just perform unlimited refunds? Well, the only thing that I have here is that all of these tools execute in your code, right? So you control what is being executed and if it's being executed. The user cannot do anything by itself. You execute that function. So it's up to you to figure out if you want to do it or not. a few simple things, like I said, just expose only available tools. If the user is not an admin, don't expose admin tools for the user. You have to add a security level, the same thing you do for API endpoints, right? If a user tells you just delete this record, you're going to check if that user actually has the rights to do that. The same here. You can add different type of checks to be sure it's allowed to do that. And lastly, you can call in the human. Just say, oh, you have to confirm this. Once I get the confirmation, I will execute the action, irrelevant if it's the actual user in some use cases, or in other cases, it's like an employee of the company. And I'm not sure if this is mentioned anywhere, but it's a thing that jumped in my mind pretty quickly because it's something that we've been working at Wevido, and several other companies are working now. It's like to make the apps more accessible. And you do what you can, but then I thought about this flow. So now I can just text my app or talk to my app, right? Most of these MCP clients, Cloud Desktop and ChatGPT and so on, are able to use your voice, and they will figure that out. So I can talk with my app, it can do actions for me, and it can like read me back what it did. It's a whole new way of interacting with apps, which like bypasses the user interface completely. If this is something that I care about, maybe this kind of experience is way better than trying to make labels and buttons and different HTML components accessible. I have no experience with that, it's just an assumption, but it's something that I think can help with a lot. Now to just keep it short, I have the similar demo that we had in the beginning, but now I've tried to do it in like a bit more collaborative way. It's the same setup. I have Cloud Desktop installed and the Wevido app on the right. It will be the same dashboard and the same editor. By the way, this is a version of the editor that's not released yet. So if you have an account for Wevido, you will not see it yet. You will see it in a month or so. So what am I doing here? Like I'm trying to write something new, to create something new. I tell it to create a new project, tries to figure out what tools it has. It will figure out that my create project function can do two types of projects. It picks one of those projects, navigates, and it actually asks me, okay, what do you want to do next? Do you want to search for some images? It actually tells you, like prompts you on what to do. I search for mountains, it gives me the results. That's what I was telling you about. It gives me like alt text for each of them. I tell it, add misty mountains to a layer. It actually added it, but it added it a bit to the right. And this is like, can I stop it? Yeah. So initially it was not from the beginning. It added, I don't know, 20 seconds. And I did not expose any tools like to move the clip or to delete the clip. And I've just told it, no, it should be at the beginning. And it figured out that, hey, I have an undo action that's exposed. Let me hit undo and I'll add it again. And like expose tools to agents and let them figure out things for themselves. Sometimes you'll be like surprised of the way they find to do things. Let's get back to it. And basically it tells me what do you want to do next. Now I'm searching for a video. The first asset is an image, same results. It tells me what I see and the duration in seconds. I add it at the beginning. And again, anything else, it prompts me to do different kind of things. And I tell it just split them half by half so I can actually see them in the same time, which it done. Sorry, which it did. And then I'm like, okay, export it and call the video my vacation, and this is the whole demo. Now, like I said, I'm usually recording other people talking here, and I have to do the same boring thing each time, like take an image from Figma and add it in the project, and then add the recording, and then change the image duration, and so on. Then I'm gonna do maybe some creative work with the video, do some cuts or something like that. But the first part, it's the same, and it's actually very boring for me to keep doing that again and again. With a collaborative way of doing it like this, it just solves this part for me. And it's a recorded video and I will not go back, so I'll just explain it. Another powerful thing to discover your application or to do things is like you can tell the agent to respond with actual prompts for you, nudge you in some direction. So you tell the agent, like, you have these tools available, suggest something useful for the user. And it will start saying, oh, maybe you want to search for some images, or maybe you want to add this type of video to your project. So it actually tries to improve the way you work by suggesting what you can do next. And can I go to the next slide? Yeah. From my view, this is like a way to work with applications in the future. It's like collaborative workflows, humans and agents. We don't want to make the agent do everything, but it can do all the boring parts. I can jump in whenever I want. That's what I wanted to show with the demo. It's in my control. I tell it to do whatever I want to do, bit by bit. Whenever I want to change something, I change something, then I tell it to do the next thing, then I jump in and fix something or add some more things, and then I continue to work on my project. So instead of working by myself and doing all the boring stuff, I can keep all the interesting stuff for myself and tell the agents to do all the boring stuff. And in the end, I don't think that the apps that will win or will survive will be the ones that have like the most AI features added, isolated. I think there will be this kind of apps that work for both peoples and for both humans and agents. And I'm not saying that this is 100% of the apps. It's not like for exactly everything. I wouldn't see this in, I don't know, life-critical apps. But for most apps that we use daily, I don't know, think about yourself. You have to pick from 5 or 10 apps to do something that you do daily or weekly. And one of them does this really well. Would you still pick one of the others? Or would you pick one like this that has this type of collaborative workflow with agents? Or, I don't know, from the business point of view, if you implement that type of in-app agent, you can think, okay, we can add this as an extra subscription step, and our users, or some of our users, would be more than happy to pay for this, I hope. So if you're not thinking about it already, and I know, I would like recommend that at least for some of your apps, you were like, start working on this since yesterday, if you're not doing it already. Like if one of the main ideas One of the main ideas that I've tried to send over is that all of these things are not that complex as they look. You have all the code, you just have to pack it in a way that agents can use it. I'll stop here. So do you still have time for Q&A? My timer is messed up, so I have no idea if I spend too much time or not.
No, I have to be on the thing. Can you show the slide from all the slides with all the drawings, the one which represents what you did?
Yeah. Might take a while?
That's the question.
What's this? No?
That was the only question, yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, shit, I have another question.
So this is my app. I've used WebMCP to register the tools. I've used MCPB for this part, for the WebSocket and local MCP server. They have packages built in for this. I've installed the local MCP server in Cloud Desktop, and then I started working with my app. This is exactly what you see in the demos.
And you had another picture somewhere where you talked about the bright future where all those tools on the right use WebMCP. That doesn't exist today, right? I think the picture was before. That one. This one doesn't exist today.
No, if you expose only with WebMCP, you will get nothing, because neither of these tools know how to use whatever you expose there. But like I said, Google just announced that they are working on supporting Gemini. Since they are one of those that propose the standard, and they also own Gemini, I'm pretty sure you will get it here. Now, Microsoft is also one of the backers, if I remember correctly, of the standard. You can correct me if not. So maybe we'll see it in something else. But again, it's sort of like a war going between them to get more usage to their platform. So not all of them will be happy to change it. It's like Agents MD and Claude MD, right? Anthropic is pretty stubborn, and they don't want to use Agents MD. And we have to have both Agents MD and Claude MD if you want to use more of them. But that's partially why I've shown all the free directions. Once you have these tools, in this case, you're like only prepared for this world where this would happen. But the other two, you can have them and your users can use them today.
Yeah, so I have an additional two quick questions. The first one is you exposed the tools right now at this stage and started talking via Cloud Code or whatever, but you can actually, I guess you can create pre-made skills. So for more complex workflows, you can create skills that describes the tools, and you can share it on your internal app marketplace or whatever. So in case there are users who don't actually know what they want to do, you can give them like a short TikTok video creation skill, and it basically can combine different tools.
I don't know if it was added recently. There was a whole discussion related to the WebMCP standard about this, exactly why you are saying it. But at the point, I know, 1 month ago, 2 weeks ago, I don't remember, when I did this demo, the only thing that WebMCP exposed was like register tool. You couldn't register skills, you couldn't register anything. Now you can create all kind of complex things where you create a tool that returns skills, like a prompt with how to do something, and then the agent learns based on that, but it's a bit more complex. I would love to see like a future where you can tell it skills, how to do skills. If you have skills, it would be an alternative to exposing user functionality, right? Because I can expose all the bits, and then I can give you, here's the skill, that's how you do something. That's an alternate way. When I did this, like I had to live with register tool because that's the only thing that it was able to do.
Yeah, and the second quick question, when would you recommend doing defining your tools on the front-end side via WebMCP versus doing them on the back-end side, or having a back-end for front-end if for some reason the main back-end is not extendable to tools?
Well, this kind of collaborative work between a human and an agent, in my view, can only be done locally, because I want to see what's happening. I need all the context from my web app. I need the local state of the components, the page URL and stuff like that. If you create like only a remote MCP with only functionality from the backend, it's very good, but it's good for situations like generate a report, import users, and stuff like that. So you need to have these tools registered locally, and then you have to figure out what you want to do with them. You also have to, you can send them to the remote MCP server, use them locally, and so on. But this way of working in your app, I think it's only possible locally, for most apps at least.
But so doing a feature like this in your product, you still demand from your users a bit of above average technical skill, because they have to do that MCP server at the moment, not in the picture with the future, in the picture of today.
I can show you in the break. I'm not sure about ChatGPT and the others. In my demo, you can take, I'm not going to go to the slide again. You can take all the local MCP server with the setup and everything and bundle it in what's called Claude plugin, which is a single file. You send that file to user, it doubles click it, everything is set up.
Okay, cool.
You don't need anything. That's one of the things I've tried to solve. How do I ship this to actual customers? I don't want to tell the customer, okay, so you go to this folder and edit this JSON file and add a remote URL there. Just send a file, double click, it's added to Claude desktop.
Yeah, that's also something I wanted to ask you, because how does it look in production? Like the WebSocket thing, it's just in local
Yep.
environments, like?
Yeah, in the example, in the first example that I've shown, the demo that I did, yeah, it's WebSockets. It's just something locally that communicates between your browser tab and a server running. I know, Node. For
Yeah, that's a
example.
cool one. I didn't know about the WebSockets. I tried sometimes something similar, and I had to do a proxy.
Yeah, it took me a while. Like we use WebSockets daily in our app.
So in
I'm
production-
like, hey, I can just talk with any server.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be remote somewhere. It can be on my own computer.
But then in production, it has to be remote, right?
No, depends on your setup. If you use this kind of local setup, it can be locally. Let me go back to.
And then the file just lives in your like repo, like the tools.
Is this it? Yeah. So all this part is like a local server in Node, written by you, or you can use the one that already exists. You can package it like an installer, like I said, like a file. User clicks on it, it gets added to Claude, and then it needs how to talk with only with your app. That's
Okay.
the difference. The one that comes out of the box from MCPB will talk with any browser tab that sends you any tools. If you want to build your own, you might want to add some extra security, maybe even authentication or I don't know, something like that. So it talks only with your browser. But this is a process locally on each user's computer that talks with a local tool on their desktop.
Thank you.
I have maybe a stupid question. I wasn't very attentive at the beginning. So you had this slide with where you register the tools. So you described the input schema, and then you had some function execute. I think it's called.
Yep.
Okay, and you said that there you can do whatever you want because that tool lives in your application, so you have access to the JavaScript code of the application.
Yes.
So you know what the application should do. So
Yes.
what exactly do you write there? Do you write like dispatch actions, send I don't know, HTTP requests? Yeah, exactly.
But, this is
So you
very-
duplicate some logic of the UI components that you have, because this is another.
That depends on the architecture of your app. That's why I didn't add anything here, because, and it also depends on how complex the action is, right?
But what did you wrote here for the, I don't know, add create project or
For the
tools?
examples that I did?
Yeah, for the
I did
examples,
exactly what you said, like dispatch free Redux actions that do everything.
So this piece of code is actually in the app code there. It's
Yep.
just-
I already have all those dispatch actions from Redux. I just had to add them free here and then a navigator or something like that. Again, this is highly dependent on the app. If you like added all that logic in the click handler of the button, you have to get it there outside from there somehow and also add it here.
Okay.
And the more complex the action is, the more code you like duplicate here. It's like instead of having a button click, you add the button handler in here. But if the action requires like the agent to do 5 button clicks and enter text in something, then you'll have to add all of them depending how you structure it.
And let's say that you are gonna build the application to deploy to production. So basically your code will be minified.
Yeah.
So this will also be minified.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, it doesn't
will be
matter.
part
Just-
of the build. Okay.
This is like, I have exactly this code and it runs on, I don't know, on mount in React on my main page and it registers the tools.
So I'm curious about the other approach. I've noticed, for example, in Gemini that it responds not only with text and images, but they can show you maps or videos or things like that. Do you know, is there some movement to standardize that? So, for example, Uber can expose their app to be shown in a simplified way in Gemini, for example. I asked Gemini to book me a car, and I have a small interface that I can see in the chat, so I'm not leaving that chat.
Let me get back to, come on, anything? Jesus. I wanted to get one of my drawings, but apparently I cannot find one now. Let's go to the end. Yeah, this. This is done with a tool called Excalidraw. I use it, like I said, I like it. But disclaimer, until this talk, I always did this by hand. Now, I just told Claude to do it for me because I'm lazy and I didn't have that much time to present it. How it does this is like it embeds the Excalidraw app in Claude Desktop. I don't go anywhere else. This exists. It's like a part of the Model Context Protocol specification. You can embed UIs inside agents. So the MCP server can respond with an actual UI. It draws something and then it sends me the UI. Now this works for simple things like drawing something, or maybe like I said, booking an Uber. I don't think it would be that brilliant if I like embedded the whole video platform in an embed view in Claude Desktop. Like we have tons of functionality there.
Yeah.
I want to do it the other way. I want to use the agent to work with me in my app, not inside the agent.
But were you logged in
makes sense.
inside Excalidraw in Claude Desktop?
No,
Because I think that I don't know if that works yet.
no,
In Europe.
I wasn't logged in. What I did was like, it allows you to click a button and open this in the browser, and I'm logged in the browser, and then in the browser I do something like, save to my collection, please, because I want to have this on my account and not just in a chat somewhere.
I remember there was a demo when they embedded Spotify, but then they said in Europe that doesn't work because of authentication issues and GDPR and all sorts of shit. But that was like a couple of months ago.
Like I said, I see the usefulness for this, but the direction I care about is how to work with my app, not to embed something in a client which is like proprietary to whoever has that client.
I think we can continue the discussions in the break because the pizza is getting cold. So thank you,
Thank you
Adi.
very much, and thank you for coming.